Deleting data. In this video, we're going to create a functionality for deleting a service provider from the provider's page, as you see here. And since this is a deletion process, we'll just use a very simple view for confirming the deletion of an existing provider. And so we'll also create the route and the controller to handle deleting existing data. So let's go ahead and create this feature. All right, so here in the IDE, I'm going to go into the views first, and if you look inside the providers folder, you'll see that we have a delete view already created. So we're just basically confirming that the provider or the company has been deleted. Okay, this is the view, and I'm going to open that for now. We're going to modify this just a little bit. And so first, let's go into the router and the routes and modify our provider's router. So we're going to create one here for delete. And so again, it's going to be just a simple get a route. So I'm going to copy the get here in line 15, 14, and 13 and paste it down here. And I'm going to call this get delete page, and we'll just call it /delete. And we're going to delete a single provider only, so I'm going to pass in the ID, just like the update and the edit up here. Okay, and the controller will be controller dash, we'll just call it delete. I think that should be good. So let's save that. Now we go to the controllers, open the provider's controller, and I'm going to add it down here, maybe towards the bottom. Let's see, what do we have here? We have the add. Yeah, so we're just going to create a delete towards the bottom here. And let's see, I'm going to copy a similar one up here because I'm going to search the ID for a particular user or provider from the providers list. So it'll be something kind of similar to the edit here. We're going to search in that providers list, find the providers matching the ID, and then we're just going to basically remove that from the list. So I'm going to copy the edit controller here. We'll move to the very bottom of this page. We'll add it down here, and let's call it the delete a provider. We're just deleting one provider. We're not going to delete the entire list, although you could do that. But this example, we're just going to delete one. So we'll change this to delete. Again, this is the controller that will be called from the route here. So with controllers and then delete. Okay. All right. So then we're going to read this ID from the request right in the form, because our form, if you open the providers list form, and so when we click the button or the link to delete, for example, down here, when we click the delete button, it's going to forward the user to this URL and going to pass the ID to that URL. And then, so when we go to the route, it's going to call this route, pass the ID to this route controller, and this controller, we're going to receive that ID from the params. Again, it's a get request, so we get that from the params and not in the body. We get the ID here, and same as before, we're going to search in the providers. We're going to find the provider, each provider in this provider's array or object, and the matching ID in the provider that matches the ID that is sent to this URL. Once we find that, return that provider to this provider here. And that is what we're trying to do here. Okay, but once you find a provider though, then we need to get the index of this provider. So wherever this provider is, we need to find the index for that provider and then remove that from the providers list. So that means we need to do a few things in here. So let's go ahead and then modify this render page first. It's going to go to the delete, and we don't need the ID here. The title will be, we'll just change it to delete. And then the maybe I'm going to pass in a company, the company name that we want to delete it from. Okay, so I could call it, let me just company, and then we'll pass in a company name here. Once we get it from the provider, we'll just pass it here. Okay, so I'm going to put company, and that means when I find the provider, once I find the matching, then I'm going to create another variable called company. It's going to be the provider dot company name, right? That is the company name we look for. I'll put a semicolon here, and we pass that to the company variable, and then we pass that as an object to parameter to the render view of the delete. In that delete view up here, then we're going to say the company has been deleted. I'm going to change this to just say company, okay? Because I passed that variable to this form. So if I, delete the company called ABC, this ABC has been deleted. Okay, so that's all we need to do here. So I can close this now. Okay, so back to the controller. Now we got the provider, the whole that single company. That's everything in that list. So if you go to the models again, looking here, if I find a matching ID here, I'm going to pull everything here. So this is one provider. Oops. That's one provider from here, from line 2 to line 19, right? We're going to pull that information and we assign that to this provider. And then here we just grab the company, to the company we pass it to the view, right? So just so we can display it. So once we got that out, then now we just need to remove that from the list here based on the index. So this is, remember, this is an array, right? An array of 20 elements. So the index, once you find the matching ID here, then whatever this position is, we need to grab that index. So this is index 0, index 1, 2, and so on all the way to 19, right? Or however many there are in the list. So that means I'm going to go and find the index of that company. So I'm going to say let the IDX for index. I'm going to say providers find the index of, use the function index of, and then the index of what? Of this company that has a matching ID. This is the one I'm looking for. Okay, so you can put that here. I'm going to find that provider ID, and once I find that, and then I can just basically return the index of that matching ID. Okay, so you can put that in there, or you can just put a provider here. But for simplicity's sake, so you can kind of see the code, I'll put that in here so you can see that I'm kind of redoing what I did up here. You could just put provider here, but and not to confuse you, so I'm going to put that in here again. I'm going to say find the provider that's matching the ID that is passed to this ID here. Return that, return the index of that position, and then assign the index to this IDX variable. Okay, so once I find that index, then I'm going to remove it. So now just remove the element or the company of the provider at the index. Index of IDX. So all you have to do is you can use the splice function to do that. So you can say providers dot splice and splice at the index of IDX. And I just want 1 to remove the one single element. Okay, if you don't put that here, it's going to remove everything from there all the way to the end. You don't want that. We just want one item, right? So remove that, and then basically we're done. We confirm that by showing the deletion delete view, and that's about it. Okay, so let's save this and go to the browser and see if this works. Well, actually we need to run it first, right? So let's go to the command terminal, cd into the back end, and run. Okay, so let's go to the browser, refresh our page, go to the service provider, and let's remove the first one. This is the Jabosphere. So if I click and delete, and you see that it says Jabosphere has been deleted successfully. Of course, we didn't check that. We did not validate that. Normally, you would want to do that first. But let's go back and see if it did really remove that company, that ID 4144532 from the list. As you can see, it has been removed from that list. Okay, let's remove another one. Let's just say the third one, the Browse BAB. Remove that. Has to remove. You go back, and it's no longer there. Okay, so you can see that we provide the deletion here. It's a very risky one because if we did not include any like confirmation, usually you want to make sure that once you delete it, you want to make sure that it's, I guess you can say, are you sure, right? Give that second chance to make sure that this is something that you cannot undo. So make sure you really want to delete or not. So let's go and add that little confirmation page so that when I click delete, instead of just going to delete it, I'm going to go and ask the user as a message, prompt message to really confirm that deletion process. So to do that, let's go to the desktop again. And again, if you look in the stack data source, if you go open that file, the folder in the third-party directory, I provided 2 files in here. You can just copy over and use it. The modal window and the modal window.css. We're going to add that to our CSS and add this to our list page. So if you open this file, and you see that I actually got this source code from this site here. It's a really nice site, provides this really nice pop-up window to give this confirmation page. So thanks to this tutorial republic.com site providing this free button, it's modal window here. So basically I'm going to copy this whole code here, and then I'm going to go to the code, and you can close this for now and go into the provider list file, and we're going to add to each each provider, right, I guess right below, right at the bottom here before the each block here, we're going to add that provider button, the modal window right here. Okay, and again you can just do a right click and then format so it looks nice in here. So it has an ID here. So when we click the delete, we're not gonna take the user directly to this link here. Instead, we're going to invoke this modal window here, modal ID, and modal here to load this modal window to confirm the deletion process. Okay, so before you do that, let's go back to the desktop again, the folder, and go ahead and open that CSS file. And again, just copy everything here, and then copy and paste to the CSS over here. So go back to the public folder, inside the style CSS, we'll add it to the very bottom here. This is for the modal window only. It's all created here already, so you can just save that and then close this style sheet. Now over here, we're going to again modify this modal window, and so when we click the delete, it's going to ask us, let me just close this for now. It's going to ask us to confirm whether you want to really delete or not. So the message will show up. And before I do anything though, let me just go ahead and then make that as an example. If I remove that and then replace it with this my modal ID here. So ref would be go to my modal like that. Okay, and it's not functional, I guess, right now, but so you can see what it looks like. Let's save and load that in the browser. And I'm going to go to the browser and refresh my page. Okay, so if I click on delete, it didn't work. Let's see what happens if I do a source view. I probably missed something here. Let's do one more time. Okay, something's not working. Let's go and check something else. All right, so let's see. If I view here in the modal, this is the link. Okay, I think there's nothing that would trigger this modal window to load, because the modal window should also be visible here. It's right in here somewhere. Yeah, it's not visible because it's not triggered. So let's go back to the code and see. So when we click this button, yeah, it needs to trigger that code. And one thing that we added to the view, let's go back to that layout. Way earlier on, when we use this template, there is a script that is already loaded in here. I think the material icon, well, I think it should be here already. Let's go back to this providers list. I think we need to trigger this, and I can't remember, but I think we need to do something like what do you call the data? Is it data toggle? Yeah, data toggle maybe. Like yeah, the data that toggle, and we're gonna call the modal to trigger this modal window here. Okay, again, you can look at the demo on their site I mentioned earlier, and I believe this is the tag that I actually missed. So data toggle the modal, that should load the modal window based on this ID here in here instead. So let's save that and try again on the browser. And again, just refresh that. So now we added that to delete this to data toggle modal. Okay, so if I click that, and so there it is. So you can see that it loads this window to confirm whether we want to delete or not. And if you cancel it, then it won't process the deletion, right? So if you click it again, any of these things should work because each of these will have its own deletion process data. But the thing is that if you view the whole thing here, notice in the view we just say my modal. So that means the ID is not unique, right? It may not delete the correct one. What I mean is that if you look at the source view, do control page source, and if you scroll down, you see that under each of these data, there is the modal window. This is the modal window here. Well, the first provider has an ID called my modal. It's called from this link here, right? If you look at the second one down here, it's the same thing. My modal again from this my modal here. So again, your ID should be unique, right? So if I click this button, it does not know which one to delete. So it's not good because it's going to find the first occurrence, which is going to be the first one on the top always. And you want it to be unique. So what we're going to do is I'm going to attach the ID, this ID to this ID here. So I would say my modal and plus the ID here, so it'll be unique. Okay, so let's go and do that really quick. So back to the view here. So this is my modal here. I'm going to attach here the ID with it. And same thing down here. ID my modal, ID. Okay, so now that should be unique. Now when we click the delete, the cancel, let me close this for now. When I click the cancel, it's just basically do nothing. When I click the delete, it should remove that data. Remember earlier the URL up here, it says it's going to go to providers/delete/ID. So that means this needs to be changed to a link. So I'm going to just basically modify that to have a link instead of this button. So I'm going to say A, and then href is going to be going to the providers.delete, and then the ID. Passing the ID so we know what ID to search in that data list. So the type is button, that's fine. And then the class would be, button danger. And I'm going to make it maybe like a medium size button and just say delete here. And of course, it's not going to be a button anymore. It'll be the anchor link. Okay, so that is our deletion button. And let's save that and go ahead and run on the browser once again. Refresh the page and let's remove the first one. If I delete that, again, if I cancel, it should go back. If I go and delete that again, if I click delete, as you can see, it removed that Yakijo from the company providers list. If I go back, it should not be there anymore. Just in case, again, we can go and pick this Ngimba. Delete, go ahead, delete that. Ngimba has been removed. You go back and you should not see a Ngimba here on the list anymore. Okay, so that seems to be working correctly. And again, if you go here, you can see that the deletion is not really nicely centered. I guess you can fix that to make it a little bit nice, but I think that should be a tiny fix in here. It's just a CSS basically. Okay, I think that's pretty good so far. So that's how you handle delete. So far, we've learned how to manipulate data using the features like adding, displaying, updating, and deleting data. These features are what we call CRUD operations, although they are handled differently using web forms on the same server. In the next video, we'll take a look at REST APIs and see how they can be created and used to handle CRUD operations from a remote system.